It was a sunny afternoon in 1988 when pedestrians in London were stopped in their tracks by a man holding a fork and eating human flesh in front of a crowd. Around his neck hung a sign that read, "Meet the Cannibal." What they didn't know was, this was no prank. Rick Gibson had legally obtained human meat and was now devouring it in public. In today's episode, we dive into one of the strangest cases of public cannibalism ever recorded. You'll learn how Rick Gibson managed to legally consume human body parts, why he did it, and how he turned a grotesque act into a statement that shocked the nation. Was it art, madness, or a dangerous loophole in British law? It's 1988 in London, an era of punk rebellion, Thatcher politics, and tabloid hysteria. In the middle of it all stands Rick Gibson, performance artist, body modification enthusiast, and, in his own words, a techno-primitivist. Gibson was no stranger to controversy. A known provocateur, he'd already turned heads with art that involved human cells, virtual reality, and body hacking. But nothing could prepare the public for what he planned next. It all began with an unusual request. He asked a friend to send him a couple of his tonsils, not for science, not for a keepsake, but to wear them as earrings. Strange? Yes. Illegal? Not yet. His friend, amused and intrigued, mailed the preserved body parts. But Gibson had a different idea, one that would blur the lines between art, legality, and morality. Rick's obsession with the human body had been escalating. He wasn't content with representing the body in art. He wanted to use it. In his view, the body wasn't sacred, it was a medium. His earlier works had used freeze-dried fetuses and biological tissue in sculpture. But now, he wanted to take it a step further, by putting human flesh inside his own body. But he knew the law. In Britain, cannibalism in itself isn't explicitly illegal, as long as the flesh is obtained with consent and no other crimes are committed in the process. So he began to plan a legal loophole. Gibson acquired human tissue, those tonsils, from a consenting friend. He arranged to eat them in public and made sure the stunt wouldn't technically break the law. No murder, no grave robbing, just dinner. On July 15, 1988, Gibson stepped onto the bustling streets of London. Wearing a placard that read, "Meet the Cannibal," he set up a small folding table. On his plate, slices of human tonsil, lightly seasoned and sautéed in oil. Passers-by were stunned. Some laughed nervously. Others recoiled. But a crowd gathered. Cameras clicked. News reporters arrived. The police? They stood by, unsure of what to do. After all, what law had been broken? None. And so, Rick Gibson took bite after bite, becoming the first person in British history to publicly eat human meat, legally. But why? Was it madness? A cry for attention? Or something deeper? Gibson claimed it was art, a statement on the human body, the limits of society, and the hypocrisy of taboos. After all, we consume animal flesh daily. Why should human flesh be off limits if no one was harmed? Critics argued he was glorifying depravity, that it wasn't art, but exploitation. The ethical lines were murky. And then there was the psychological question. What kind of person wants to eat another human being, even with consent? Some labeled him a psychopath, others, a genius provocateur. The medical community stayed mostly silent, but the philosophical debate raged on. The stunt gained international headlines. Tabloids called him the British Ogre. Academic circles debated the implications. But Gibson wasn't done. A few months later, he planned a second public feast. This time, a slice of human testicle donated by another willing participant. This time, Canadian authorities intervened. The event was stopped before he could take the first bite. His art had finally crossed a line. He was banned from performing the act again, and no more public cannibalism would be tolerated, even with consent. For many, the image of a man eating human flesh on a street corner wasn't just disturbing, it was traumatizing. Newspapers dubbed it a disgrace. Religious groups condemned it. Psychologists questioned his sanity. But Gibson remained unfazed. In his eyes, he had exposed society's hypocrisy. He hadn't killed. He hadn't desecrated a body. He'd simply pushed the boundaries of what society considered acceptable. And he wasn't sorry. Today, Rick Gibson's act remains a one-of-a-kind moment in British legal and cultural history. A public cannibal who broke no laws, but tore through the fabric of social norms. Was it art? Was it madness? Or was it both? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Would you consider this freedom of expression, or just a crime that slipped through a legal loophole? And And if you thought this was wild, wait until you hear about the man who tried to auction off his own liver legally. Subscribe for more twisted true crime stories you won't believe are real.